Wow, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It is the return to live. It's been quite a while.
I know I missed this, because we're so much more spontaneous and, enjoyable.
Unfiltered. I'm going to miss a lot of edit the blade tool. I'm really going to miss while we're live today.
So first off, thank you everybody for joining us with this live stream. This is the first, hopefully of many, but we really appreciate that you guys are here joining us with this.
Yeah. So the reason that we're here, we just put out a video this morning for the newly announced Panasonic BGH1 box camera.
Right. Yeah.
So we've got a full episode up, but also Panasonic's going to be doing their own live stream. So what we thought, kind of as an interesting change of pace, we're going to watch it along with you. I honestly have no idea what's going to be in the stream. While that's going on, in the chat bar, put all your questions for us. So once their stream is done, we're going to come right back and we're going to take some questions. And we'll also be able to check some stuff too if you have any questions that you want us to dive into the menus and take a look at. We have the camera here, so we'll be able to sort that out and have answers for you at the end.
So, one of the nice opportunities here, and we kind of miss this, is where we get to get your feedback, answer questions that go beyond what we can cover in a video review. We've had this camera for a few weeks now. We've been using it in the field, on gimbals, and of course to record our video as well as some other episodes. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to ask any questions you might have about like the overall handling of the camera and just things that you cannot cover on a spec sheet or a technical list.
Yeah, I mean, right now you've got a real dilemma because the video is just under 10 minutes long. It's just 10 minutes before the live stream. You could theoretically watch the review before that, but then you'd miss out on like this incredibly, the white background.
Oh, I know.
And,
is my gray hair blending into the white seamless? I thought maybe we could have gone with like bright red or something, but
I have a gel. Oh, we could mix it. when we come back, who knows what could happen to the background
will be. But yeah, we're excited to see what this is going to be like. This camera does have some interesting features. I know there's a lot of other cameras that people are also looking that would do a similar thing. So, we're excited to talk about not only how it does in the field, but really the other big advantage is that connectivity.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real strength for me. Using it in the field, honestly, I would have been just as happy, if not happier, to have a GH5S or a Panasonic S5 or something like that. But once I brought this back and used it, I've been using it as a webcam, and we do a ton of, video conferences and briefings and stuff like that. So for a week and a half, this has been my webcam, and for that, it's fantastic. Like, the interface is just really intuitive to quickly change camera settings. The other thing, I mean, we stress test the hell out of the camera when we did our video review. I mean, we had it on a gimbal, or in the second, it's shooting log with a busy background. Those are, it's a great stress test, but it's not a common use case. When I was using this at home just as like a webcam with continuous autofocus, it did a surprisingly good job. Not a lot of that pulsing. And at the end of our video review, that was done with continuous autofocus. And it looks like it was just locked off because it doesn't budge.
And again, you might say, okay, well, do we need a $2,000 webcam? Like, that seems pretty strange. I mean, if you're...
Now that I've had one,
then he'll never go back, right?
Webcam.
But, it's not just the fact that you've got a webcam, but the fact that you can send out a package like this remotely and that a business can control the camera from their home base, right? Especially right now with the situation, where people are trying to work from home or, you're trying to do reportage in the field. Having somebody out of the field being able to operate this camera for you takes a lot of the pressure off, takes a lot of the guesswork off. It could be a kit that we see companies sort of just boxing up and shipping out.
Yeah, like here's 6 of them, fire it out. And it is pretty cool. On the Lumix software, you can control up to 12 cameras and just easily click between them. It is actually super intuitive. And that's one thing we didn't really touch on too much in our video review is, I've attempted back when I worked at the camera store to hook up like Sony's live control software.
Oh, man.
Not Canon. Someone else had JVC also had a system, and it was so complicated.
This
is like plug in a USB port and you turn the software on, and it works. It's actually quite nice.
I remember we were working at the camera store where we last did our live shows. We had a crew of 3 people helping us out, like
and
hard switchers.
Terrible.
Oh, it was terrible, right? Hard switchers, like clicking back and forth between video feeds.
We appreciate all the contributions of those people who helped us live stream.
I can't believe they put up with it. It was unbelievable. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of serious effort, and hopefully this will simplify things.
Yeah, so I thought I'd give it a quick little spec rundown of this camera before we go over to the stream. I'm sure Panasonic's going to touch on some of this.
And I'm going to be driving the stream and looking at comments, so as I look down towards this direction, that's just me, making sure that I don't have interesting text that I need to answer right away.
Right, yeah. So really what they've done, they've taken that sensor from the GH5S, which is very fast readout, plugged it into a regular Micro Four Thirds mount. And one of the really nice things with this compared to the GH5S, I assumed it would be exactly the same output, same everything, but they have tweaked it a little bit because it's got this nice fan on both sides of it here. It's capable of recording 4K 60 at 10-bit. Now, I did make a bloop in our video. I labeled it 10-bit 422. It is 10-bit 420 recording internally with the 4K 60.
Monster.
So I will... I don't know.
I'm so sorry. He always adds an extra 2.
This is the great thing. This is what we should use live for, is just to do corrections after the video goes up.
We would have a lot of live shows to do if that was the case.
Yeah. The other nice thing is this does have a new version of Vlog-L, and this is one of the most compelling things for me.
Right.
We tested it. Panasonic is saying a stop more information. And it's not one of those cases where it's like, yeah, there's some barely usable information buried deep in the shadows. We did get an extra stop of information in the highlights, which is very usable on this. So what I'm really hoping, and we'll see if this is, I don't think it seems like it would be a heat issue or anything. Maybe they can get that new Vlog-L profile on the GH5S. That would be really sweet, but Panasonic's not commenting on, honestly, any firmware updates for Micro Four Thirds at this point.
And we're getting a lot of great comments, and a lot of it is going to be about handling, how the camera weighs, how it balances. We definitely want to cover that because we found some really good stuff about this in the field, and we found some difficulties in the field as well. So we definitely want to talk about that when we come back after the live stream and cover that.
Yeah, a lot of people, if you're more interested in photography, this looks very weird, but this is a very common form factor in video land. I mean, Red's been doing this forever. A lot of the early cinema cameras were just a sensor in a box like this, and you'd tether stuff out to your recorders. It's been around for quite a while, and it makes a lot of sense. It's super easy to rig up. You can see tons of mounting points on it. When I was out shooting with this on a monopod the other day, this is the kind of setup I did. Just nice big video battery, monitor on top, and away you go. But it does get a little more complicated if you want to run audio into it. You know, then you've got to start building this up a little bit. But you can build it for exactly your use case. And if you were to just, slap this on a wall as a remote camera with a tiny little Micro Four Thirds lens on it, you don't need to attach anything else to it.
It'd be very minimal.
Plug it into the wall, tiny lens. You can have a very compact setup. And it is funny, this is lighter than a GH5, GH5S. Also a lot lighter than a Zcam E2. A lot of people are making that comparison.
For sure.
So yeah, if weight is going to be a concern, and like you mentioned, on a gimbal, this is awesome.
It was actually brilliant on the gimbal. Incredibly lightweight. We were able to attach minimal gear to it. But yeah, there are some issues. I could definitely see this camera. It's got very little real estate. It is amazing how much they've added as far as attachment points to grow it. But the real estate's limited, and when you start sticking stuff on there, you can't really control the camera very effectively. That's a moot point if you're going remotely and doing it that way, but in the field, yeah, you need some finagling. I could see an octopus of Noga arms coming off this thing, and and certainly a full rig. But when you strip it down basic, throw it on a gimbal, yeah, it was a joy to use. Incredibly lightweight.
Yeah, the control is one thing that we did certainly have some issues with. Up top here, you've got your little jog dial, and it's so easy to cover that up with a microphone, or even when I was using it with a monitor like this the other day, my larger monitor mount, the one that actually holds onto it and doesn't swivel around like this, was also covering the four-way jog dial on it. Now, I think most people, Panasonic's intending for you to use it tethered, and in that situation it's very usable, but there are some weird things, like when you're using the tethered software, you don't have access to waveforms, which seems super weird. Panasonic's like, well, no, you're going to be using an external monitor with this, but a lot of people will be using it tethered.
Right.
One thing that I would love to see is Small HD has actually brought out a series of monitors that work with different cameras' touchscreens. So if your camera runs on a touchscreen, you can poke the big external monitor and control it. I would love to see support for that with this, because Panasonic's touchscreen interface is excellent, and you sacrifice all of that when you're using it like this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we have a lot of questions already too about how this is going to operate with other external monitors and recording devices like Ninja 5s, for example. You know, are we going to get raw recording into those devices and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, they're not saying at this point. Now, Panasonic is an interesting company because they do just keep adding. They're very good for firmware updates. So I never want to rule anything out with them, but if they're not saying, you know, I wouldn't say go out and buy this camera right now if you need external raw recording, because we don't know if it's going to come. But I do think it would be somewhat likely.
What else do we have here? Why is my face so red? You know, it's just because you don't let sunlight hit your body at all, as a rule. Yeah. Whereas I'm always out fishing and, you know, like just sun beating down on me. So I know it's a question most people wanted answered, so I just wanted to make sure I answered that. Well, that's why. Sunlight.
It's a good thing we got that taken care of before we got into the Panasonic presentation.
What else do we have here? So a lot of people are wondering about things like, oh, you need to talk up, Jordan.
Oh.
Yeah, great. Jeremy's wondering, live show, I'm confused, where's Caitlin? Jeremy is one of our viewers from a long time running.
The entire live stream crew is not here. You know, it's going all right, but we miss those guys.
Yeah, external B-RAW. This is a question a lot of people are asking, and we definitely want to find out about that.
Well, I mean, they've said there's no RAW announcement at this point. Again, I'm optimistic, but I don't want to make any assurances of that. Now, you could still use this with an external recorder. You'll get 10-bit 422 in all of the different record modes on it, as opposed to the 10-bit 420 when you're recording internal 4K 60. But it's less of a necessity when you are getting 10-bit recording and all of the other frame rates with this. Mm-hmm. And the very high frame rate, 1080p, unfortunately that won't go out to an external recorder. That's just internal recording.
Now, Faustin Pete is saying, hello, have you guys tried the app with 12 cameras yet? Of course we haven't. No, I mean,
they sent us one camera.
Yeah, you know, it's supposed to operate on 12 cameras maximum.
Yeah, you can see there's a camera drop-down tab, and all you do is click on the camera that you want in the live stream menu. You know, we've seen it visually demonstrated, but we haven't had a chance to test it ourselves. We're grateful to have the one camera that we have here and to actually get some time to test it out before the embargo.
That's right.
But no 12 camera action. I'm just curious, is that going to be like super hard on your computer? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, you know, and we could talk about the software a little bit because we have played with it. Yeah. And it is early stuff. I mean, on my Windows computer, which we're streaming off of right now, which
sounds like a jet engine, if you're wondering what that is.
It does. Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear the fan in the background?
That's not the camera.
It's a Gigabyte Aorus 15, and like the fan is just terrible. It's always on. It's totally Gigabyte. No. But yeah, we had a few issues on my computer, but on the Mac it ran flawlessly. You did a full.
It was quite stable on it, and I was using it as a webcam, like I mentioned, for like a couple of weeks, and yeah, it was very seamless, really nice, intuitive.
And you guys were testing the remote connectivity, controlling cameras.
Well, no, because for that I'd have to use it through like an external. What's the word I'm looking for? Like an external desktop controller. It's not built into the Lumix Tether software to remotely grab something, so you'd have to do that remotely. But I mean, if you take control of someone's computer, it's going to work just like you're there. Right. The interface is really intuitive. I think we have time for one more quick question before we jump over to the live stream. And again, guys, please hit us with all of your questions while Panasonic's presentation is going on. Once it's over, we're going to jump right back here and we'll be answering some questions about the new BGH1, the box camera.
Filmmakers Workshop's wondering if there's a standard Lumix menu when attached to the monitor.
Yes, it is the exact same interface that you're used to on the Lumix camera, not the Cinema camera interface, and I do certainly prefer the Lumix menu, so it's quite intuitive.
Now, any Wi-Fi control? That's a great question. You know, do we have any sort of wireless connectivity where we can operate the camera without having cables plugged into it?
Yeah, so not on the like on a desktop kind of solution that I've found yet. We'll certainly look into that. Actually, we'll try to have an answer for you at the end of the stream. But you do still get the mobile support for
through your phone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you can certainly do something remotely there. And Panasonic, for a long time, they've had a nice live view feed with it. It's not just camera control. You can see what you're shooting. So we used that a lot when we were recording ourselves with GH5, GH5S, and that's still there with the box camera.
Why are Canadians taking over YouTube? That is a great question. We need another...
It's because we have a social safety net. So if you fail as a YouTuber, you're not homeless.
I think it's because it's frozen like 6 months of the year, so it makes sense to do a job where you're inside.
We should jump over to the
Let's
Panasonic.
over to the live stream, guys.
So yeah, take a look at the Panasonic live stream. We'll be back shortly to answer all your questions.
So make sure to tag @Lumix Cameras before your question so we can address them at the end during our Q&A session. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Matt Frazier, Business Development Manager for Lumix USA. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you, Sean. I am pleased to announce the newest Lumix camera, the BGH1. Designed from the ground up as a production video camera, the BGH1 uses a video-optimized, high-sensitivity sensor with 10.2 megapixels and incorporates our legendary dual-native ISO system, adopted from the VariCam and S1H cameras. This combination delivers some of the best low-light video you're going to find in a Micro Four Thirds camera. The BGH1 will offer advanced video codecs, including an all-eye codec, capturing up to 400 megabits per second, and you can record 4K video at up to 60 frames per second in 10-bit, and you also have access to 422 color sampling. The BGH1 is a cinematographer's dream with features like anamorphic capture, access to shutter angle, and of course, the BGH1 will include V-Log-L with improved dynamic range over the GH5 and GH5S. One full stop more dynamic range in the highlights to give you more recoverable information. For autofocus, the BGH1 uses the autofocus system developed for the Panasonic S5, with one notable advantage. The BGH1 uses a lightning-fast Micro Four Thirds sensor, giving it impressive autofocus in all frame rates and resolutions. The BGH1 camera is designed for a professional workflow, so overheating would be completely unacceptable. The BGH1 uses a combination of aluminum and magnesium in its chassis with an integrated fan to allow the camera to record in all frame rates and resolutions for an unlimited recording time at temperatures all the way up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's 40 degrees Celsius. To ensure maximum flexibility, the BGH1 camera includes professional terminals like a 3G SDI terminal, a timecode terminal, a Genlock terminal, and also includes dual SD card slots that are both UHS-2 compatible. In addition, you'll also get a full-size HDMI port with the ability to output images simultaneously over 3G SDI and HDMI. For audio, the camera includes a stereo microphone system, a headphone jack, a microphone jack, and is fully compatible with the XLR1 XLR audio adapter. And last but not least, the BGH1 also incorporates a USB-C port as well as an Ethernet port. Now let's go back to Sean to discuss the possibilities provided by these two ports. Take it away, Sean.
Thanks, Matt. For me, some of the most exciting things about this camera originate from the USB-C and the Ethernet connections. So let's start with the USB-C webcam compatibility. With the USB-C interface, the Lumix BGH1 can be used as a traditional webcam, utilizing the brand new Lumix webcam software drivers for Mac or Windows. This truly offers a plug-and-play experience for those that just need an ability to view a camera feed in their popular webcasting or meeting services. In addition, the USB-C interface on the Lumix BGH1 box camera gives the capability to use the Lumix Tether for Multicam app. This app provides an astonishing amount of control for those that want to broadcast their video feeds into encoding software of their choice. By using the interface included in the Lumix Tether for Multicam app, you'll also have full camera control too. Changing ISO, aperture, shutter speed, frame rates, and full menu access are now possible from the comfort of your chair. Did I mention broadcasting your video feeds, plural? The Lumix Tether for Multicam app won't just limit you to one camera. You'll be able to take full control of multiple cameras attached to your computer, so there's no need to physically go to each camera to change a simple setting anymore. Moving on to what I believe is the most forward-thinking part of the Lumix BGH1 box camera, the Ethernet port. This port expands your capabilities for placement of the Lumix BGH1 box camera by utilizing the PoE Plus power standard that's available on certain network switchers. In addition to all the functionality you get with the USB-C interface, you now have the capabilities to power this camera and send your video feed with one single cable, minimizing the need for additional power cables or extra HDMI, SDI cable runs for tricky camera placements. This unique feature will allow you to control up to 12 cameras via the Lumix Tether for Multicam app. And a future firmware update will provide IP video streaming over Ethernet via RTSP. Now, over the past few weeks, I've been using the Lumix BGH1 camera for streaming our Lumix Live weekly events. And I can tell you this has massively simplified our streaming capabilities. By using just one connection from the camera via the Ethernet and PoE Plus power standard, I'm able to slim down my streaming hardware to a single cable coming off the back of my camera. And I can control it from the Lumix Tether for Multicam app. This is truly going to be a revolution for those looking to broaden their live streaming capabilities or those looking to simplify their studio multicam setups. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Matt Frazier to discuss the future firmware updates for the Lumix BGH1 box camera.
Like all things Lumix, we're already working on future firmware updates to expand the capabilities of the BGH1, including RTSP compatibility. So stay tuned to all Panasonic Lumix social media for more information as it becomes available. Now for professional integrators who have specialized needs, Panasonic is releasing a software development kit, also known as an SDK, allowing you to develop your own solutions to control and monitor your camera. And this SDK is not only compatible with the BGH1, it's also compatible with the GH5, GH5S, G9, S5, S1, S1R, and of course the S1H. So as you can see, the Lumix BGH1 box camera can fill a large variety of production needs. From YouTubers looking to improve the quality of their productions, to live streamers looking for the ultimate in convenience and image quality, and live event productions that require cinematic quality images with industry standardized connections, the Lumix box camera truly does it all.
Thanks, Matt. As a reminder for those joining us live, make sure to use the chat bars and tag @Lumix Cameras for us to address your questions during the Q&A session at the end of this stream. Now, last week I was lucky enough to sit down virtually with 3 members from the product team in Japan responsible for the Lumix BGH1 box camera. This interview was to get a peek behind the curtain of what went into developing and designing the brand new Lumix camera. Let's hear what they had to say. This interview is being recorded as a virtual sit-down with members from our product development team in Japan. I'm joined by product planning leader, Mr. Aihara, project manager, Mr. Nakamura, and lead designer, Mr. Nishiwaki. Mr. Aihara, what were the design goals for developing and releasing this camera?
はい。従来のルミックスは小型軽量でありながら高画質動画が撮影できるという点で好評を得てきました。形状は一眼形状であり、ハンドヘルドユースを中心に多くの方にご使用いただいてきました。ただ逆に従来のカメラの形状をしていることで制約も多かったと考えています。形状をボックスタイプにすることで逆に形状がシンプルになり、プロのクリエイターが求めるさまざまなインターフェースが無理なく実装できるようになります。近年、ハンドヘルドユース以外にも置き取りや物乗せといった動画制作の需要が増えている状況を鑑み、この商品を導入しました。ルミックスは誕生からもうすぐ20年を迎えます。今後のルミックスは作品作りの道具として、クリエイターに愛されるブランドとして認知されるよう新たなスタートを切りました。BGH1 はルミックス初のボックスタイプカメラで、その形状、特性を生かして多くの動画制作現場でクリエイターの皆様のお役に立てると確信しております。
This is the first Lumix camera to include an Ethernet port. What was the original reason for its addition, and how did the port's use evolve over the development?
はい。この BGH1 はさまざまな用途に使えるカメラを目指しました。その中でイーサネットはデータ転送、PC への接続、電源供給、拡張性など BGH1 と非常に親和性が高く、 ライブストリーミング需要が高まっていることもあり、開発当初からイーサネットの使用を入れ込んでおりました。
Many current Lumix users may not be familiar with the professional ports of timecode, Genlock, and SDI. Why are they included, and what use do you see for them?
はい。近年、1台ではなく、複数台のカメラを用いた映像 VR 制作、ライブ配信などが一般的になりつつあると理解しております。そういった中で、タイムコード、ゲンロックといった機能は、現場でのワークフロー改善などに貢献できると考えております。Lumix として動画強化の戦略を打ち出した中で、従来から Lumix を動画制作に使用いただいている方の要望にはもちろん応えていきたいと考えておりますし、また本機能によって今まで Lumix を使用されたことがないクリエイターの皆様にも興味を持っていただけるチャンスだと思っております。
Now, Mr. Nakamura, given the design goals of the camera, what challenges did you encounter and how did you solve them?
はい、豊富な機能と小型軽量ボディの両立です。GH5S の動画性能を維持、あるいは向上しながら、Lumix 初となる SDI、ゲンロック、イーサネットといった機能を搭載しようとすると、どうしても電力が増加し、発熱が課題となります。動画機として無制限記録が絶対条件の中、ユーザーヒアリングを通じて、様々なユースケース、使い勝手を考えると、小型軽量も重要なポイントと認識していたため、その2つを両立させることは非常に大きなチャレンジでした。新規放熱ファンの搭載含めて、これまで培った放熱技術を駆使することで、GH5S 以下のサイズ、重量を実現できました。
With the added stop of dynamic range in the box camera, are we using more data for the highlights in Vlog-L? Is this really just like a Vlog-L Plus?
はい、ハイライトについては実写評価でも GH5S 比較で白飛びしにくいことが確認できています。BGH1 は動画に特化したカメラですが、バリカムや S1H などのシネマカメラ開発で培った手作り思想、ノウハウを生かし、当社マイクロフォーサーズカメラとしては初の13ストップを実現しています。
Mr. Nishiwaki, given the design goals of the camera, can you explain why this camera moved away from the traditional mirrorless design in favor of a box? And what benefits do you see this providing?
はい、一眼ミラーレスカメラは写真を撮るためにこのように手に持って構えて撮るために考えられた形なんですけれども、この BGH1 はさまざまなユースケースを想定した動画を撮影するためのカメラです。いろいろな用途で使えるカメラモジュールとして最適な形とは何かということを検討した結果、必然的にこのようなシンプルなボックス形状になりました。でこの光軸を中心にシンメトリーになっているボックスフォルムは一眼カメラのようにグリップがこのようにないので、例えばジンバルやドローンに搭載した時など容易にバランスを取ることができるというメリットがあります。
Can you provide some subtle design features that you've included that might not be immediately noticed?
はい、イベントやストリーミングでの複数台でのカメラコントロールやドキュメンタリーなどでのハンドヘルドでの撮影、それからジンバルやドローンへの搭載などさまざまなユースケースを想定してデザインを検討しました。例えば置き撮りの時ですけれども、カメラを設置しておいてカメラから離れてしまうことになるので、遠くからでも録画状態が目視で一目で確認できるように本体のこの角の部分に通常よりかなり大きめのタリーランプを配置しています。それから同じく置き撮りの時ですけれども、複数のカメラを置き撮りするときはケーブルマネジメントも重要です。ケーブルは全て背面方向から出せるようにして一つにまとめやすいようにすることでシンプルな配線になるようにしました。またこのカメラはケンジントンロックをここに取り付けることができるようになっています。これは私自身の撮影の経験からも感じたことですけれども、屋外のイベントで複数のカメラを設置したときにカメラから離れてしまうことに少し不安を感じたことがあります。ですのでセキュリティ面の配慮も必要と思いましてケンジントンロックをここに取り付けられるようにしました。それから、デザイン面の基本造形ですけれども、シンプルな箱からこの角を削り取ったような形状になっています。これは、操作性に配慮した結果生まれた形状です。これらのカット面は手に持った時に角が当たらないようにするとともにボタンにアクセスしやすいようになっています。
So for my last question, did you conduct professional user surveys during the development process? And if so, are there any designs or functions that reflect the feedback you got from them?
はい、例えば本体全周にはこのようにネジを、配置しています。これはリグを取り付けるときに、一眼のカメラのようなこの側面の三脚穴だけではなくて、側面とか天面からでも固定することでしっかりと取り付いてガタつきをなくすというためのものです。また VR のように複数のカメラをケージに組むときも周囲のネジがある方が良いという配慮です。またこのネジですけれども、ドローンにカスタムで搭載するときにネジが少しでも飛び出しているとガタつきの原因になるという指摘がありましたので、極力段差を少なくするなど調整してきました。このようにいただいた意見を生かして細かい調整をしてきています。
I want to thank the team in Japan for taking the time out of their day to provide us some insight into the development of this camera. It's clear from day one that the Lumix BGH1 box camera was designed to be in a category of its own and provide the most flexible Lumix camera to date. But I know a lot of you want to see what this camera can do in the hands of creators. So before we go any further with the conversation, let's see how this camera performs in the real world.
Across the board, whether it's a big TV show or a documentary, there is always somehow a reason that we need to get into a small space.
The qualifiers of this camera that makes it different from all of the other cameras that people have been trying to make sure to get on FPV drones is its form factor, the weight, and of course the amazing quality footage that it can capture.
My initial reaction to this camera was, wow, they have finally created something that can capture all my beauty. It's a lot going on. So to get a camera that can capture literally all of me on a streaming platform, they hit the nail on the head with this one.
So with this pandemic that has hit, it has been very tough to be in the live event business. The shift or the opportunity that comes is, of course, virtual. To have the ability to take the same camera that we would shoot live events and then go virtual and do an online experience with the same camera, game changer.
So with all cameras, you have drawbacks on one side or the other. You can either have a camera whose image quality is amazing, but the ergonomics are not. Or on the other side of that, you have a camera that might be sort of built for ergonomics, but the image quality is lacking. So to have something that takes both of those things and puts it all into one little box is helpful.
The box camera from Panasonic is very unique in the sense that it's perfectly suited for a multitude of different things. I mean, you could use it on small gimbals, car mounts, obviously, inside and outside, and drone definitely being one of them. You know, it's the most ergonomic camera I've ever used on a drone.
The box camera is the first time that I've seen the components that we need. SDI cables, the inputs, the gen lock, the fact that we have all of those components and be able to plug in an Ethernet cable into this camera, it's a huge, huge thing for our business. I like the fact that I can take this box and custom build my own system, and it's just a perfect opportunity for us to get the most out of a camera, both live and virtually.
When you've been working with DSLRs and then you go to a front-facing camera on your laptop, you're literally going back to like 720. To have something that could, you know, take your content to eons above where it currently is, just on quality alone, but not have to sacrifice that space, is a game changer.
The build quality of this camera is incredible. It felt like something that was tough that you could still play with. You know, it's a toy, but it's a solid toy.
Action cameras are designed to take a beating, to be there in the middle of the action. Cinema grade cameras are frail. This is the first step into a cinema grade camera that is built solid and can take a beating, and it applies perfect to what we're doing here.
With this camera, they've broken it down so you've got the simplest aspect of what a camera is, and what that's doing is magnifying the possibilities for the cinematographer using it.
Not every job that we do is the same, so the fact that we were able to go shoot a scene in a movie, and then use that same camera to go do a multicam live event, and use that same camera to go shoot a commercial. I've never seen anything like it.
Panasonic.
Today I'm joined by the filmmakers who were responsible for the piece that you just watched. We're going to go over a bit of a Q&A session here to, kind of cover their firsthand experiences with the cameras after the projects that they were working on. So I'm joined by David C. Smith, to hear more, and Jean Tyson. So with that out of the way, let's give the viewers a bit of a background as to who you are and what production or video creation you do. Let's start with David.
Sure. So I'm a cinematographer by trade, but for about the last 10 years, I've run a company called drivingplates.com, and we're the world's largest library of 360-degree moving environments for car scenes. So if a film or a TV show needs to put an actor in a car, we do that on a green screen stage or on an LED stage, and my company provides everything that's outside the window. So it's kind of like Google Street View on steroids. And since the beginning of the company, we've always used the Lumix line of cameras to create that footage. So as such, we always do 9-10 camera arrays by combining a bunch of Lumix cameras together. And as such, we've basically been able to put Lumix footage into now over 750 television programs, feature films, Academy Award nominees, all that. So we've kind of been a little bit of a pioneer in using these small cameras in big cinema production. And so the box camera is kind of the camera we've been waiting for because it finally gives us Genlock, it gives us SDI. It basically now lets us dovetail into a professional set in a way that the GH line of DSLRs was always a little bit challenging because we only had HDMI.
And Tahir, can you give everyone a background on who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, Sean. I look forward to it. Thank you for asking. I just want to set the expectations to lower your bar. David was talking some jargon, and I was just like, what is he even saying? I make internet videos. I make content for quick consumption. I host a late night show Monday through Thursdays. I host a music show, and then I do a lot of content creation with big companies like All Def Digital, BuzzFeed, and a couple other companies. But I make quick content that I usually shoot on my phone just because it's quick and easy to grab, and I don't have to set up 16 tripods, anything like that, because it's generally just me. Like, I will play all the roles in every one of my sketches because I don't feel like dealing with scheduling and all of that type of stuff. So that's why my night show works so well, because it's via Zoom and everybody can just sit down at the house. But to use the box camera, it was so amazing because it just brought a different type of quality to it. And I mean, like, anytime you're using like your phone or Zoom, you're gonna lose a nice amount of quality already. But with this box camera, to be able to stream and that clarity and be able to give the people, I feel like, the best that they should and could get it was great, man. And I really wish that you guys had let me keep it for, like, I don't know, like 6 months. Nothing excessive, just like 6 months. I get it was limited, but how many black guys with freckles and red hair do you see? I'm kind of limited too, so I thought it was a match made in heaven.
Well, with that, we definitely need to keep in touch with all this stuff too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I look forward to it.
Jean, could you give us a little bit of a background with you as well?
Sure. I'm a cinematographer in Los Angeles, and I work on a big variety of projects, everything from feature documentaries to big network TV, and everything in between, which is a lot. Web series, shorts, anything that really people, if someone has an interesting story to tell and they want me to be their cinematographer, I'm always eager and excited to go do it.
So after working through the projects that you guys had the cameras for, what is the one standout feature that really stuck with you after the productions? To hear.
What really stuck with me after the production would probably just be the quality of it, man. I guess I'll say the quality and the simplicity of it. Like, to have a plug and go type of camera with that type of quality and no big production was amazing, especially for somebody like me. Like, I'm shooting literally every day of the week. Like, I don't take any days off. So to be able to just wake up, crack on my laptop, plug in the camera, and press record, that's perfect for me during this current stage. So that's what I loved about it, how simple it was and how quality the video image was.
And what about you, Jean?
For me, it was the flexibility of it, being able to take a camera that's, you know, the size of my 2 hands and I can just put it anywhere that I need to, but also attach a cinema lens to it so that I'm capturing quality as well that I can then cut into anything that I'm working on, whether that be a film or a TV show. You don't find that very often.
And David, what about you?
Sure. So for me, it was really about the interconnectivity. So the fact that we have now finally in a small form factor camera, SDI, Genlock, the ability to go networked, both power over Ethernet and signal over Ethernet. So it's all of that interconnected capability where the camera can fit into so many different situations. You know, with DSLRs, we're used to having good image quality in a small format camera, but that's always been sacrificing the ability to have professional interfaces. And so finally we get the best of both worlds with this camera.
So how does everybody feel the image quality was compared to the cameras that you're normally shooting with? Let's start with David for this one.
Sure. I mean, it's the nice thing here is that you're able to put the box camera into a use scenario where a lot of times people are right now using webcams. So right now doing live conferences like we're doing here has become a big part of society because of what's going on. And so that's usually been webcams on people's laptops or cell phones. And those cameras being so tiny and, you know, really not designed for image quality, being able to step up to something with a larger chip, something that has proper color, you know, good codecs, all of that now just gives us a much better ability to interact live with each other, but still do so in a cinematic way.
Cool. John, what about you?
Well, again, it's for me really about having a specific scene that it may play out in a larger project, again, film or TV. For instance, I worked on the scene where we were in a car, and you know, my camera that I'm working with right now on the TV show that I'm working on is like this large. You know, it's huge. And putting that in a car, that even if it's a giant one, it's just not going to work. And so to be able to take this little tiny camera and get the angle that I want to get that's actually an interesting angle that helps me tell the story is such a huge deal for us as filmmakers and storytellers. We want to be specific about where we're putting the camera, and you can't do that when your camera's this big and you're in a space that's this big, you know. But with this little camera, you can actually say, oh, you know what? Actually, I want that really cool low angle, you know, on the driver as she's speeding through the neighborhood, you know, for whatever reason. and it works. And to be able to then take that image and cut it in with my cinema camera that I'm using for the rest of the job is really significant. You know, you can, of course, you're going to have to do some color correcting like we do with everything, but it's there. The image quality is there, and you can actually make it fit seamlessly in with your project.
Cool. What about you, Tahir?
I feel like you guys tricked me, man. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, you gave me that camera, and the day that we did my show with that camera, everybody was like, oh my God, what's going on? How does it look this crisp? How does it look this clear? And then the next day I went back to the regular camera, and everybody's like, oh, how did I ever watch this before? And I'm like, wow, this is what you guys did to me. And I've tried to block that day out of my memory because I feel so like just betrayed by you guys. How do you create this amazing technology and then strip it away from me with no one? I was like, oh, they're giving me a camera. It's like, no, they're giving it to you for one day, okay, so have at it. And it just makes me excited about like what the future holds, man. Like, we're able to get, like everybody else has kind of touched on, this type of quality through streaming has never been seen before. And my life right now is streaming. So like this is just like it feels like being in the front row of a roller coaster right when it's about to like hit that first dip. Like I'm in the front seat of something so amazing, so exciting, so fun. It was great. It was a great time.
You know, I'm curious to hear that with streaming for the camera, and again, I know we touched on this a little bit already, but why is it so important to up the image quality in your opinion?
Well, you know, I think the importance of upping the image quality really lays on keeping the audience entertained and locked in. Like, to be able to produce a show from my house and garner anywhere from 1,500 to 6,000 live views that night. Like, this is literally between 1,500 and 6,000 people watching at that moment. You want to stand apart. You want to, separate yourself from the other people that might have events or shows going on at that time. And true, you can. There are a number of platforms that people can turn to for entertainment. But if you're providing not only the entertainment but the quality of entertainment and the visuals are high, top tier, like why would they not want to watch you? So that not only engages the audience, but it also keeps them coming back looking for more because you're basically a TV show online. Like I'm my own Netflix now at this point because of this quality. And I feel good about that. I feel really good about that. It's opened a lot of doors for me. Now I'm also doing headshots for people who do online dating. And that never would have happened, without this camera. So I just, just multiple streams of income.
So we've been saying, how everything's been adapted, and having a tool that has a broad use for not just streaming, but other applications is important these days. So I want to ask you, David, knowing that you do a lot more major motion picture work that you were talking about with the GH series, what was the main features in the BGH1 that really excited you for the projects that you're working on?
Sure. The form factor is a big part of it. The fact that we basically have a little 4-inch cube and that it's stripped down. I've always made the statement that a camera is just a box with a hole in it. And now that's very literally what we have. So by taking all of the, stripping it down to the most core basic functions of what the camera is, means that I then get to build the camera up to be the camera that I need at any given moment. And for one project to the next, that's going to be radically different. And so a lot of times when you're using, cameras that are designed for a specific use case, when you deviate from that use case, the camera starts fighting you. And the box camera really gets out of the way and lets me create it. It's like a set of Legos. I can basically build up whatever camera I want. So it's that adaptability, I think, that is really really crucial, and we've been enjoying it a lot. Like we've had a chance to use it now in a lot of situations. And with the video, that was something we really wanted to try and show, was here's a bunch of different filmmakers using it in different ways, and I think that's really its biggest strength for us.
Now, kind of dovetailing with that, Jean, you commented before that being able to put the camera into more tight spaces where the standard cinema cameras can't go. Could you dive into more detail on that and why it's important for those that don't understand how actual production may work normally?
Sure, yeah. Like I said, it's all about telling the story, and sometimes, it makes sense to do your traditional coverage where people are either standing or sitting normally and you have plenty of space to, put the cameras around them and tell the story that way. In other situations, you may have someone in a space or in a state that makes you want to put the camera somewhere that, again, a giant camera is just not going to fit. Or in an angle that it's not going to quite work, or on a device, for instance, rolling down a gurney and it's somebody's POV. You kind of want that angle. And again, with my camera that is normally, the size of my body and trying to sit, going to work out. But when you now have a tiny camera that I can take the same lens, or a smaller prime lens perhaps, and put that on this little camera and then get myself into the position where I need to be in order to best tell that story of that particular character, it's going to be great. Along with image quality, though, the other thing that it provides us is, as kind of these guys are talking about, is connectivity and being able to connect to what we are used to. It fits into what we're used to using on a set in TV and in movies, where I can now connect it to my wireless, transmission device that then sends it to Video Village, where I've got, DPs looking at it, I've got directors looking at it, producers, writers, everybody's able to watch now the shot that we've designed because it's connecting to our system, just like our other cameras do. And that's not something you could do with other little cameras that were sort of, they sort of thought of this idea of like, oh, I want to get the camera in a small space. Well, you could, like David was saying with the GH series, you could do that, but then you couldn't broadcast it to everybody who needs to watch for all the reasons you need to watch, for lighting, for performance, for all of it. And now this little camera not only is giving us, the quality that we want, so that it seamlessly fits in with everything else that we're doing, but it also gives us the ability to monitor what's happening while it's happening.
I'm curious, and I'm going to throw this one to David. With all the connections that the camera has, like you mentioned earlier, SDI, the inclusion of Genlock, and timecode ports, how has that, or how do you feel that it's going to change your process for capturing some of the filming for, say, driving plates?
Yeah, really for array work, where you're now having multiple cameras, essentially you're creating one big camera by combining a lot of smaller cameras together into one system. The ability to have the image from each of those cameras being captured at exactly the same instant in time becomes really important, especially if you're trying to merge that footage together into a large kind of panorama, which is a lot of what we do. With the GH line, we've had to basically kind of build a custom trigger system and a custom power system that gets us really close. We're within a frame, but we don't have that line level sync, and that's something that we've always been wanting to have, because as we're stitching things together, having those frames be identical is pretty important. So now that we have Genlock in the box camera, that's no longer an issue. We can Genlock all the cameras together, and they essentially act as one large unit. And then timecode now means that it makes the process of syncing that footage and bringing that into a timeline and having all of those different clips line up perfectly in time is now a one-button solution. We basically just hit the timecode sync button in the editing system, and all of the footage is in perfect sync. So it's radically sped up our process and increased the quality of the final product just from this one kind of technical thing. So yeah, we've been waiting for these features for a long time, so it's good that it's finally here.
So, to hear, as someone who streams as well, there's something cool about having a higher quality camera that you can place anywhere in your studio. So I'm curious, because I know in the time that you had to work with this camera, the Lumix Tether for Multicam app wasn't available yet. Now, since it's coming with the camera, and it's going to give you full control from your computer, meaning you don't have to get up and go touch the camera to change your ISO, focus, aperture, and other settings, how important is that, in your opinion, for flexibility of streamers, YouTubers, and other content creators?
It's everything. Because especially for somebody like me, I've said it before, like, a lot of the stuff that I do on my own. So to be able to have, like, basically my mission control center up, and I can adjust everything, and I don't have to get up. And I mean, we've all done it before. If you have to film something by yourself, you get up, you turn the camera on, you sit down, and then you have to get up, press stop, and look at it to make sure that you were centered and all of that. That's a lot. So to have that all at your computer, and you're like, I need to change the ISO a little bit because it's coming in a little bit. Like, to do all of that from your computer is, without having to get back up and review the footage and then fast forward, this is me just getting up to go look at the footage. Like, all of that is so annoying when you're doing it by yourself. So to be able to basically turn yourself into a team. Like, now I am talent, producer, director, all from the same seat. I don't have to get up and then put on another hat and then go review the footage and all of that. So it really has changed the game. And I can't wait till I get mine in the mail from you guys, because I just know it's coming. I've been praying on this. I've been fasting. I stopped eating carbs about a week ago just so I can show my commitment to how much I'm looking forward to this.
So there's a cool feature that the camera has specifically for streamers and broadcasters. So for people like you and me that are doing this all the time, you have the ability through this app to control up to 12 cameras via Ethernet. So thinking about this, do you see in your production a use case for setting up multiple camera angles easily?
Sean, let me tell you something, okay? The night that I used this camera, I didn't realize how clear it was going to be. I don't know if I'm ready for the world to take all of this in. It's a lot, Sean. Okay, just off the pictures I post on Instagram, the DMs are going crazy. But if they got 3 different angles with that type of quality, Sean, I don't know if my marriage would survive. Okay, and I'm just trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be in my daughter's life. I'm trying to be there. It's a lot, Sean, because like I had never seen anything like this on a streaming platform. Like, this is the quality of Netflix. This is the quality of Hulu. This is the quality of Prime. So for someone to be doing this in their living room, man, it is, I can't say game changer enough, and I can't really think of any synonyms for like game changer right now. So I'm just keep saying game changer. Okay, it's a game changer. Game changer. Just keep saying. It's amazing, man. I cannot wait for receive my 3 cameras so I can use this Ethernet wire.
I knew that was coming. Somehow I figured.
He set me up, David. How would I not walk through that door? Of course I'm gonna walk through that door. He set it up. Oh, you get multiple cameras. Oh, multiple, you say. You don't say. I don't mind if I do. But I'll just take 1, 2. 1 works.
All right. We'll I'll have my people get in touch with yours.
There you go. It's just me. I told you, Sean. I don't have any people. It's just me. Have your people get in contact with me. Okay, that's all you gotta do.
Fair enough. So I want to kind of round this out with a little bit of a call out for everybody. So Tahir, where can everybody find you online and check out all the goodness that you've been talking about, man?
Okay, you can catch me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. It's all Tahir Moore, TAHIRMOORE, and my YouTube as well. We're having a great time, man. My Patreon is really taking off. People are taking to, the dad bods are in right now. I didn't know that this was going to happen. I've been approached by Vanity. I've been approached by Vogue. It's a beautiful time to have a dad bod. I never thought that boob sweat for men, would be so profitable. So I'm thankful of all the times that I didn't go to the gym, but very easy to find. I'm out here, fam.
Awesome. Jean, what about you? Where can everyone find you and follow your work?
Yeah, so you can usually look at my website, which is just my name, JeanTyson.com. Also Instagram, same thing, Jean Tyson. I have a couple of projects. One I started during the pandemic, which was to raise money for the LA Food Bank, because everybody's really struggling right now. Everybody was struggling before the pandemic made it worse, and my friend, who's also a DP, and I created this Instagram page called Directors of Photography, where we essentially created a bake sale for everybody here in LA. Couldn't ship worldwide, but we could do a socially distanced bake sale where people could place orders through Instagram and Venmo, and we bake sourdoughs and cookies and brownies and stuff, and then all of the money went to the food bank, and we raised enough for over 100,000 meals for people here in LA. So that's Directors of Photography, DOUGH. And then also my latest project that just premiered a couple of weeks ago is called Black Boys. It's on NBC Peacock, their streaming service, and it's about Black men in America and illuminating their humanity and greatness in our country. So check that out on Peacock.
Very cool. And David, where can everybody find you and check out your work?
Sure. So on all the different social platforms, I'm David C. Smith DP. When you've got the last name Smith, sometimes you got to use the middle initial in there, and then when it's David Smith, you got to also add the DP at the end. So getting my own URL was never going to be a part of the cards. But first world problems. And then drivingplates.com, like we mentioned before, that's my company. So if anybody needs to reach me, they can always do so through there. And I can vouch that John's sourdough is probably the best loaf of bread I've ever eaten. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of your day. I really appreciate it, and I know the viewers really appreciate it as well. It's one thing to hear our engineers or Matt or myself talk about the camera from the ultra technical brand side, but to hear use cases and opinions of how the camera worked in the real world, I think is one of the more important things for someone who's looking to get this camera for themselves. So again, thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to join us for this Q&A session. And with that, I want to jump over and bring Matt Frazier back into the conversation to address some of the questions that you guys, the community, have been submitting through this presentation. As you guys may have noticed, we've had the team answering some of the questions already, but they've also collected some for Matt and I to address live. So, how's it going, Matt? Hey, Matt. Yeah, pretty well. I mean, this is definitely a really exciting, day for Lumix in general. As I just realized that I did not have your microphone unmuted when we came back, so. So I'm going to ask that question again. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing awesome. I can't wait to get some of these questions answered in the Q&A.
Yeah. So again, thank you everybody for submitting your questions on all the different platforms that we've been streaming this on. So we have a bunch here that we've been collecting throughout, as we said before. So Matt, let's jump right into it. There's a lot of questions about the streaming capabilities with this camera. Questions from wireless streaming versus the actual tethered Ethernet streaming. Could you touch a little bit on some of those questions as well? A lot of those came from the DPReview multicast that's also going on today.
Yeah, so just real quick, I want to say thank you to DPReview, CineD, VideoMaker for all participating in this live stream. This is a first attempt for us to do a multicast, sending it out over multiple platforms. So we're very excited to give this a try. With that said, for the DPReview questions, and frankly, I've been following the chat. I know there's been a lot of questions about what can be done wired versus what can be done wireless. At the time the product ships, the camera over Ethernet or USB will be able to stream a signal. You're going to get about 1280 by 960 or 1280 by 720 resolution at that launch time. In the future, we're going to be doing an update that adds RTSP, RTP support. We are being somewhat cryptic about the resolutions that we're going to support right now. Some of this is we want to be a little secretive. I promise you're going to get very good quality resolutions from it as we do that. As to Wi-Fi, as of right now, the Wi-Fi implementation is primarily going to revolve around our app. Being able to use the Lumix Sync app with the camera. That doesn't mean that we won't explore doing Wi-Fi in the future. We have other cameras like our X1500 and X2000 that can do RTMP streaming over Wi-Fi. So it's not that it's foreign to us. We're just not ready to talk about it quite yet.
Yeah, very cool. So let's jump down this list of questions that we have here, continuing on.
Sure, absolutely.
From our Lumix Global site, the Lumix Global YouTube channel, we've had a number of questions about ND filters. Could you touch on that topic a little bit for us?
Yeah, it's something we really would love to have incorporated into the box camera, but you sort of have a clash of needs. So we wanted to make the camera really small, very narrow, so that we could put two of them side by side for VR applications as well as for 3D applications. When you do that, you really remove a lot of space where you would have to be able to move the neutral density filters out of the way of the sensor. So if we don't have space to move the ND filter, we can't incorporate it. Now, I realize some people will be out there saying, well, just use an electronic ND, something like this put into place that's like an LCD panel that can be darkened or brightened. The problem there is that will immediately cost you roughly a stop of light. So you're going to have a camera that has to use higher ISOs or higher gain in order to fight through that ND filter. So at the end of the day, we prioritized reducing the size, making sure that it would work in different applications, in particular for VR, for array camera applications. And at the end of the day, the neutral density filter had to be sacrificed.
Yeah, definitely understandable. So the next question we have here is also from the Lumix Global site, and it actually involves the cooling system on the camera. The question is, how loud is the fan, and can the speed be changed?
It's quieter than a DC-10. I can promise that. I'm joking. The fan is incredibly quiet. Anybody who's used an S1H can confirm this. Frankly, if you've ever seen our X1500 or X2000 camcorders, they incorporate a very similar fan design. It is very quiet. You have multiple different settings that you can set the fan to. Frankly, in most applications like what I'm doing right now, it's not even operating. I'm on a box camera. Sean is on a box camera right now. I have never heard the fan in the box camera ever once. I don't know about Sean, but personally, I've never even heard it kick on. That doesn't mean it won't with certain recording formats. I haven't tested it yet with like 4K 60p, but I have actually turned the camera's fan on and forced it to high. And when I heard it in that application, it was very quiet.
Yeah, and to add into that, just like we were saying before, I've been using the box camera for the Lumix live streams, and we broadcast at 1080 60p. And typically, because I have the camera plugged in all the time and it's always running, I usually will either set the camera to normal fan, so that where it constantly runs, not based on internal thermal, it just runs. And the fact is, I'm using a separate microphone. I'm arm's length away from the camera here. You're never going to hear it in 90% of the platforms that you're going to use it in. It's just really a non-issue. And to put it in perspective, other cameras of this caliber that are cinema-style cameras, turn one of them on and listen to the fans that those cameras have, because you're not necessarily recording audio internally, and we are leagues quieter than anything like that in the market, I think.
Well, and I think one last point on this before we get to the next question. It's a trade-off. So we could have loaded a lot more metal into the camera design. Some companies have no fan in a box design, and their cameras tip the scales at over 900 grams. This camera is at 400, and it's just under 440 grams. So you're dealing with a much lighter weight camera. You either add metal to get the heat out of the chassis, or we include a fan and we use it's a coreless fan design that's very quiet, and that helps get the heat out. It gives us a much lighter system to be able to work with. So I prefer having a lighter camera. I think it's a better choice.
Yeah, it definitely. Now, let's see. We have another question here that's actually coming from again, from DPReview. And I think this is a bit more of a complicated question, but I want to touch on it here. There's a lot of people asking about NDI support on this camera. Could you dive into a little bit of info on that?
Yeah, so there's nothing that would necessarily preclude us from incorporating NDI into the camera. I can tell you that as of right now, NDI is not a plan for the product. We sort of have to look at different use cases for a camera and where we think it's most likely to be supported. And when we started looking at the market, we felt like the OBS platform would be a big platform for this particular product. And within OBS, we can work with what we have existing and what our plans are through our TSP. So it didn't make a lot of sense for us to start licensing NDI technologies that would ultimately have to be passed on to the end user as a licensing fee or a licensing charge. If we were going to support something like NDI, we would probably support the NDI HX platform to optimize image quality, to also reduce the resources that are required for your computer to be able to work with it, and to expand its control functionality. But as of right now, there's no plans for it. I just want to make sure everybody understands the why. Keep feeding up the questions. We'll absolutely send them back to our engineers in Japan. We'll let them know that there was a lot of interest in NDI. That was one of the biggest questions that I noticed on the chat. It's also one of the biggest questions that Sean has noticed. So we're going to pay attention to it. We'll send it up to Japan and ask them if it's something that can be added in the future firmware.
Yeah. Now, there are a couple comments. This one actually comes from Cine D, and I think it's actually more of a point of some clarity on the bit depth and chroma subsampling on the camera. The BGH1 is capable of 422 10-bit recording internally. Could you give us kind of the high level of what the 422 10-bit capabilities are for this camera?
Yeah, I think that's some of the dangers of reading the rumors websites that are out there, because they don't always get all the information. So the camera has the ability to record 422 10-bit internal up to 4K at 30 frames per second. So that's, it's 4K 25, 24, and 2398. It also has the ability to work with 10-bit up to 60p 422 10-bit. The only thing it can't record internally is 422 10-bit 4K 60p. You can still do 420 10-bit 4K 60p internal. So you absolutely have internal 10-bit 422. It's just limited to 4K 30. When we output over HDMI, that gives you the ability now to get 422 10-bit if need be for 4K 60p.
Yeah.
Hopefully that clarifies things.
Yeah, that I think definitely addresses some of that question there.
And I can promise you in the U.S. Press release, I 100% made sure that was all included in the U.S. press release. So you should, if you go back to the U.S. press release, you'll see it says that.
Exactly. So let's see here. Jumping down to one of the other questions here, which comes from the Lumix Live U.S. broadcast that we're doing. The question here is, how about audio? How do you monitor the audio being recorded into the camera via the Tether app?
So that is a terrific question, and is one that Sean and I can't 100% answer at this point. Until we see the RTSP implementation and the future updates to the app, I don't know what the future brings. I can only tell you what.
Oh, and we just lost Matt's video. So
today we don't output. Okay, so we don't have the ability to monitor the audio through the Lumix Tether app today with it as it's implemented. So you're going to monitor just through the headphone jack on the camera itself. That's how you'll monitor it today.
Yeah, and that's
pretty
much
only if you're using the Tether. That's if you're using the Tether app. Obviously, if you're using an HDMI out, you're using an external switcher, there's a whole other way of being able to do things like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I basically have been using it. I have the camera plugged in with PoE plus power for Ethernet, sending that over, and then when we do multicam work, depending on if I need to share like my desktop or something like that, then it's plugged into my ATEM. So I can monitor audio a couple of different ways, but being able to plug right back into the headphone jack on the camera is going to give you the most direct audio capture there. Now, following up here, there was a question posted on DPReview, which obviously I'm going to toss this one over to you because it's way more fitting for you. Is this camera compliant for Netflix?
All right, so that's a sticky subject because we don't have any control over that. Netflix will approve what Netflix wants to approve. They have very specific standards. So I can say that it incorporates timecode, which is something that Netflix looks for in a camera, and it's on a standardized SDI terminal. So it doesn't require your sound guy to have to bring special adapters or anything to make it work. So that's a positive. We certainly hope the dynamic range is more than adequate to be able to meet their needs. We certainly see use cases, especially for arrays of cameras or for anything that's comedy related, anything that's live event that they're doing, certainly benefits to being able to use a product like this. So it includes all those things. Plus, I think Genlock creates a completely new reason to consider the product, especially when you're doing array work. So we're hopeful, but ultimately that's really up to Netflix, and I don't have a lot of direct communication with them on this camera. So we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah. So here's another question that's actually really right up your alley, Matt. This comes from the Lumix Global channel, and it's asking, will Anamorphic D-Squeeze be available in the Lumix Sync app?
So we've asked for it to be included in the Lumix Sync app. We'll have to see if they're able to incorporate it in future update. It's not currently available there, but I do want to touch base on a couple of cool things you can do. Obviously, we can de-squeeze over SDI, which is awesome. You can go ahead and de-squeeze over SDI. My favorite, and Sean's laughing because we've been messing around with this for the past few weeks now. You can de-squeeze Anamorphic over the Ethernet or over the USB. So you can actually do Anamorphic live streaming, and I have been doing it for the past couple of weeks now. I didn't bother to do it for this one, but for a lot of stuff I've been doing, you can ask the guys at DPReview when we were doing some talks together. I was Anamorphic at the time. So yes, you can absolutely do de-squeezing, just not on the Lumix Sync app at this point.
Yeah. So let's see, we have time for maybe one or two more questions here. Let me see here. Well, I totally lost my place in our list of questions. Again, everyone in the community that's been viewing this stream on the multiple different platforms that we've been broadcasting this, you guys have had some amazing questions, and we know that we can't always answer all of the questions that are posted, but we always try to get to the most common questions for what people are asking about.
So Sean, here's one I actually want to get to. So there's been quite a few questions about support. Is Panasonic going to make monitors to attach it? Are we going to make accessories? Have we been in conversations with other companies to build accessories for it? Is there a PL adapter available for the camera? So number one, yes, there's already a lot of PL adapters available because it's on the Micro Four Thirds mount. So yes, there's a plethora of Micro Four Thirds to PL adapters already available. We're already in conversations. I can tell you at least 3 to 4 different companies who are already planning on building cages for the product. We've been in conversation with a couple of monitor manufacturers. We're looking for ways to help further expand the functionality of the product in the monitor systems as well. So just keep your eyes peeled. We are definitely, no question about it. I've already got CAD drawings to all the major cage companies out there. You're going to be able to find accessories for this product.
Yeah. And all right, let's see here. The last question that I want to bring up, because there's again a lot of people asking specifically why a 10.2 megapixel sensor in a camera like this. And I think hopefully you can give maybe a little bit of a peek into it as to where this camera sits compared to something like a GH5, GH5S, or even the S5, because there's a lot of people comparing them together.
Mm-hmm. So again, I think you look at the market as a whole, you have to also kind of look at where you're targeting a certain market segment, right? So, on the one hand, you can use Micro Four Thirds mount and put a smaller sensor than Micro Four Thirds and kind of put it into a box design, use it for streaming applications. But then you're really sort of hindering its low light sensitivity. You can then use use a photo sensor to get higher resolution. But again, we're starting to sacrifice low light sensitivity to be able to do that. Since this camera really doesn't have a lot of photography functions, that's a misnomer, by the way. If you use the Lumix Tether app with the camera, you can absolutely take photos with it. It can be used as a photographic camera because we see industrial applications where that might be very useful to be able to use it as just a photo camera. So 10 megapixels is really going to give us exactly 4096 pixels of width for the full sensor output. So that gives us the exact number of pixels we need for cinema 4K capture. And by sticking to that, it gives us the biggest diodes we can fit in the camera, which gives us the best low light sensitivity. Then you add in our dual native ISO functionality, and that gives us even better dynamic range. It also gives us a better high ISO point. And then really last but not least, it helps us with refresh rates so we can have faster readout speeds. So the camera has very low instances of rolling shutter. If we increase the resolution, you're going to increase the amount of rolling shutter that you'll typically see. So it's a balancing act. This is a video camera first and foremost, and it's a 4K video camera. So sticking to the right number of pixels for 4K gives us the least amount of rolling shutter, the best low light sensitivity, the greatest dynamic range. And that's why we did that.
Yeah. Well, cool. I want to thank you, Matt, for taking the time and doing the questions with us. And I want to thank, again, all of you that have joined us from any of the platforms that you're viewing on. Like Matt said, this was a first, kind of attempt for us on multicasting and broadcasting out to as many platforms as we can to get all of you the information about this new camera. We look forward to continuing this conversation this Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time during our normally scheduled Lumix Live broadcast, which is on the Lumix Cameras YouTube channel. So make sure on whatever platform you are viewing on, whether it's the Lumix channels or any of the other platforms, DPReview, Videomaker, or CineD, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on their channels. It helps YouTube platform out. It helps all of us get this information out to you guys and have these kinds of conversations. And with that, like I said, see everybody on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Lumix Cameras YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody.
All right, we are back. So, an interesting live stream. Matt and Sean covered a lot of the questions.
Yeah, they did the Q&A at the end of theirs.
Which is great.
Answering some of the questions that were also on our thread. So hopefully you caught that. They did touch on a lot of stuff there.
Absolutely.
But we did see quite a few that we want to go through. First, we should probably address this.
Yeah, so this is actually the set from Amityville Horror. This is
the original,
Yeah,
right?
this is
Like
the
the
gateway
Spielberg
to hell.
produced.
Yeah,
Okay,
actually, I think
great.
the production value on this is better than the original. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. Okay. But, people said we had red face, so we said, why not make ourselves it's beautiful.
So we are taking audience feedback. You want red in the frame? We're gonna
give you red. We actually listened. So Sean and Matt did talk definitely about mentioning no Wi-Fi tether support, that kind of thing for the software. That was covered well. Yeah, it'd be interesting if that does come into play. Peter H. also, it's not waifu support if you're still watching. None of that. And Jordan has no idea what you're talking about.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So what questions have you got for me, Chris?
Well, I think here's the thing. I mean, we should address autofocus because that's something that Matt and Sean didn't cover in a big deal. And I know a lot of guys are wondering about autofocus performance. Panasonic already, I would honestly say, has a bad rap in the industry. Well, this does have the DFD system very similar to the Panasonic S5 with its improvements.
It's the same algorithm. Yeah. So right now, it's just this camera and the S5 where you can see that, though it's coming to the rest of the S line. Now, the thing to remember, if you have checked out our field test video that's online, that's at 24 frames per second, which gives the camera the least amount of information to work with. When I was doing a lot of webcam streaming and stuff like that, I was generally at 30 frames. It gives it a little bit more to work with. And I do want to say, using that over quite a while, that wobble issue is, occasionally, focus might be slightly in front or behind, but you don't have a constant wobble that the cameras were famous for before.
Yeah.
Like, I was very comfortable just leaving it on face detect autofocus while I was using it in those kind of situations, which I think a lot of people will.
And you said, okay, lower light inside your house, but you said it was actually pretty solid on your face.
Yeah.
Outdoors, we were shooting Vlog L in our video, a little bit less contrast whenever the camera pick up. So sometimes it would go to the background versus the foreground or where you want it to stay, but no wobble, none of the classic DFD continuous focus wobble. So at least we can say that part is gone.
It's less distracting for sure. Now, certainly I still wouldn't recommend if you're going to be relying on, heavy autofocus use for like action or something like that. This isn't the camera system for you.
Right.
But in more, if you want to just have like, the example I keep going back to is a studio musician or something like that, it's going to be just fine for that. Leave it on continuous autofocus and let it go. I think you'll be pleased with the results.
Yeah.
But so it is getting better, and sensor readout speed seems to be the key for Panasonic autofocus getting better.
Yeah, and actually, while we're on the topic of sensor readout, so this has the same chip as the GH5S, right? Very similar kind of specs. So we actually can answer a couple of questions. So first off, I want to make sure we get it right here. So Ryan De La Torre was wondering how is the ISO performance, and we would expect to be basically the best that Panasonic has in their Micro Four Thirds line, similar to the GH5S.
Well, the GH5S, it's the same performance as that. It's a dual gain sensor, which we're seeing a lot of at this point. I do really like how Panasonic lets you know what those gain settings are instead of having to figure it out for yourself. But I always say it's basically like a step above. This compares very well with a lot of the APS-C video camera sensors out there in terms of low light performance. You're still going to get better results out of an S5 or an S1H with the bigger full frame chips on it, but it's certainly the best in class if you're looking at Micro Four Thirds.
Right. So that then it brings us to another question, and Vincent Chan was asking this, and on the topic of the GH5S, why this camera instead of a GH5S? Now, I think, if we get into things like having Genlock, having SDI support, this having the remote tether, that goes beyond the GH5S for sure. But what about in the field? Why would we use something like this in the field? Are there any benefits compared to a GH5S, which would, in practical terms, seem to make a lot more sense?
I mean, I love the GH5S.
Yeah.
The last film that I worked on, we actually had some GH5S footage in it because it is a beautiful picture. This, if you're planning to use it as a conventional camera, has a few advantages. That 4K 60 10-bit, which isn't available unless you go to an external recorder. Now, bear in mind, you're still going to want to put a monitor on this.
Yes.
So, it is quite similar to a GH5S, but you will not get the V-Log-L profile with the extra dynamic range on the GH5S. Hopefully that's just a temporary thing, but we'll see. So it is a better picture off this. Also, because this does have the fan in it, and I've never had a GH5 or GH5S overheat, although it's possible. I mean, this thing, I just basically leave it running most of the time, plug it into AC, it just sits there running until I decide to jump on a web call or something, and I've never heard the fan going.
Yeah, you've never heard the fan.
And I'm never worried about an overheat with it.
Right. Now, also, this will address Kyle Wist's question. Kyle Wist was wondering, can you operate this camera like we have it rigged up here with just an external monitor? The answer is yes. You get full functionality. You've got a menu set button here and then a control wheel. But straight out, that's pretty much all you have. It's a little hard to navigate the menu system.
Yeah, it really depends on you setting up custom buttons for exactly the use case you're in, because there's not that many of them.
And it's quite close to the hot shoe. Right now we've got a ball head on here, so that's raising the monitor. But before we had our Rode Go mic right there, and the problem was it was covering that wheel. I could not turn the wheel.
And it was covering the right button on it. So you can't scroll right on a menu. But it is nice to know if you take this out, you don't have to go through the Wi-Fi app on your phone. You don't have to run it through the Linux tether.
Don't have to.
Through the interface here, you're getting access to all the menu options and the full camera.
Yeah, you've got customizable buttons. You've got quick menu here on the side. So yes, you can, but clear that hot shoe. It would make a lot of sense actually to put hot shoe adapters perhaps on some of the other attachments.
Yeah, I would just cover this thing in mounting points. Same for microphones.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is, because it's such a small pack, some of those accessories might cover some of your controls with this.
DWN, we could muse for hours on what that stands for. But let's just go with what are the native profiles on his question?
Yeah, so you're getting some of the new profiles on this. There is that V-Log-L. Fortunately, this has like 709, which is one of my...
Which I like.
Yeah.
709 times over.
You're on fire today.
Literally with the background, yeah.
So yeah, you've got that, which if you want to straight out a camera profile is really wonderful. But also you've got the Cine DNV version 2 on these cameras. And I'm sure I missed one. So we also have, L monochrome is in there.
Portrait, landscape, natural, vivid, standard, of course.
And for customized
hybrid log camera. Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much all there, except for the flat profile that we see on the S1H.
Okay. Adam Bose was saying that he would love to see this as a Love Island cam.
You have opinions on that.
I'm a huge fan, obviously, although the American season's not so good. But before we go into anything else, UK Season 3, amazing TV. You should stop crapping on it. You should watch it. It was fantastic. Anyways, besides that, how do you see this in that sort of multi-cam broadcast sense? These are absolutely easy to mount on things like gimbals, drones, robotic camera mounts. So
exactly. I don't think you're going to have a lot of cameramen running around on a show like that with this sort of camera, unless it's, again, a gimbal setup or something
It's
like that.
always remote.
But yeah, for your remote cameras, this would make so much sense for that. The quality would be better. Now, I have, over the shoulder of other people, witnessed some Love Island, and this would be better quality than what you're seeing on that. What was the chosen couple that won this season of the American Love Island, Chris?
It was Justine and Caleb. They were charming.
That was a test.
It was, I watched it. Oh, and Kyle Wist, no cute dessert. And I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, that is something. If there was one complaint I had about Panasonic as a company in general, because we do support them, we love their products, but no cute dessert is almost.
Cute dessert was a previous picture profile, if you're not aware of this.
Yeah, it made your desserts especially cute, and it's unforgivable, but we move forward.
We're certainly asking for the return of that.
Chris is so punny. How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh?
I'm glad someone appreciates him.
You know the answer at home.
Okay.
What does B in BGH1 stand for?
Box.
Big boy, John B. Yeah, box.
It's a boxy GH. So this is part of the GH line. B will stand for boxy, where I guess G stands for grippy. That's my theory.
These are great questions. Actually, here, let's get this right out of the way, because this is another one. So Javier Perea is wondering, Jordan, do you think it is worth the money, or is it too expensive? $2,000 US, roughly, is the price for just the camera. And it is a camera that will require some other equipment to really make it work to its best advantage.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I touched on this in our review. You can get nicer image quality with the Panasonic S5, if we're just talking in the Panasonic line, with that big full-frame sensor. This does still have some unique stuff to it. Again, the connectivity is really what it's all about. This is quite reasonable for this class of camera, especially because nothing else out there is giving you gen lock until you go quite a bit more expensive.
For sure.
The other thing with this is the very fast readout on it. Now, this is something that they touched on, but a lot of people are going to be using this style of camera for like remote shooting for sports and things like that. And you can't have a camera with serious rolling shutter issues. So a lot of them are still using like old, 1/3 inch or 2/3 inch broadcast cameras, with very small sensors, not great image quality. This would be a huge step up in picture quality, and the rolling shutter is so well controlled that it's not going to give you a lot of issues with that.
Right.
So those are, they seem kind of niche cases. I don't think this is going to be something like the GH5, where it seems like everybody has, one of those. It's such a popular YouTube camera. Filmmaking, again, you're rigging everything up. I could see this making sense there. But for single camera content creators, no, I think a GH5 or an S5 or...
Not for vloggers.
Yeah, those might make more sense.
How do you feel about Vlog versus Vlog L?
So before I was kind of not a huge fan of Vlog L, because with the GH5, GH5S, fun fact, you can actually record a little more dynamic range if you use the HLG profiles.
Right.
Because they're not designed to match to the bigger Vlog profile. This is a nicer profile to it, but yeah, we still saw, using the full Vlog profile has more dynamic range.
Right.
So if you know you're going to be doing a ton of high contrast shooting, that's going to do a better job. But this is... a stop more highlight information is a real improvement. And we could see it in the waveforms, again, if you check out our BGH1 episode.
We're getting a lot of questions,
Plug,
of
plug,
course.
plug.
I wouldn't really call them questions. I would call them angry shouting at the screen.
Lots of caps.
Yeah, lots of exclamation marks about the fact that the camera has no ND filter built in and no IBIS. And again, it doesn't. And it really does come down to size.
Yeah.
Size of the box and the fan.
IBIS, I think, is also, you have to remember, this is the slightly oversized sensor that we saw. So there might not be as much room for that to move around. That's one theory. But, we have seen people who are doing the Grand Tour was saying we need a camera without IBIS because it screws things up when we car mount cameras.
Right.
If they're looking for really smooth movement, they're going to stick it on a gimbal, a Steadicam, a crane, something like that, which is more the audience that this is kind of targeting.
Right.
ND filters, they just take up space. It's that simple. If you look at any camera with built-in NDs, they always have a little larger front on them.
And I get it. I mean, exactly for the money, wanting to get the best bang for the buck and value out of the camera, it'd be nice to have those features. But again, a lot of this camera, I think, is going to be used in controlled lighting situations, mounted on tripods, locked off shots. And in that regard, obviously, NDs and IBIS not really going to be needed.
Yeah, I would love to have it, but I understand, just based on the goal. They wanted to make a small light camera, not an EVA 1.
Not for bloggers. Chris, is that a challenge? I hear John V asked that, so yes.
If
John
I spin this screen around and you just go like that,
I mean,
we're vlogging.
I did shoot Jordan with a gimbal, and in that regard, I mean, it is absolutely lightweight. It is certainly portable. The battery, we should mention, it sucks that your old batteries aren't going to fit, but it lasts a long time. So, certainly there is a good feasibility for that in the field.
Yeah, I do want to mention battery's not included with this camera.
Tentacles.
So. So there is no battery included with this. The battery life on it has been fantastic. I actually haven't had to charge this, and I've used this out in the field quite a bit. I would say you're easily looking at, well over 6 hours runtime. I'd love to get an actual number on it, but it does mean you're going to have to grab a separate battery when you pick that up, and these are big video batteries, so you're probably looking at $200.
Yeah. There's no Canadian Love Island. Kyle was wondering.
There is no Canadian Love
We
Island.
have tons of islands. Most of them are frozen.
There's Prince Edward Island is a Love Island.
Right.
And Vancouver Island is a Love Island. And
Yes.
Baffin Island. They're just not
Nobody-
broadcast, but that's where everyone goes to fall in love in
Yeah,
Canada.
it's Baffin Island. Yeah, it just rocks and ice. It's beautiful.
Penguins.
It is actually quite beautiful.
Oh, no, penguins are down there. What's up north? Polar bears.
All right. I mean, we've pretty much covered them. I think we did pretty good. I mean, again, Matt and Sean did cover a lot of stuff. If you guys have more questions, absolutely let us know.
Leave them after in the comments below, and Chris and I are going to take a little time and try to respond to some of those, especially if you're catching up with the stream.
Absolutely.
We'll keep an eye on that. Again, if you haven't, check out our BGH1 episode that's up. Go on DPReview.com. They've got a full write-up on this stuff. And it looks like we're coming into fall camera release season, so make sure that you
subscribe.
Do that subscription stuff.
Please subscribe so that we can keep doing this, because yes, that we'll be cut loose and turned into glue if you don't.
I had no idea the stakes were that high.
It's that high. So
well, thank you for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
Let us know how we can improve the live stream. I think we might wind up doing some more of these when we have new camera announcements.
See? Yeah.
So thank you.
I honestly love coming back into this format. It's great to talk to you all directly. So thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
No, stop streaming. Stop it. Stop.
I'm clicking the
end stream.
I'm clicking the button.
No, it's.
Are
you sure? You should have thought about this.
It says not yet. I don't know if I should do it. Are we? Okay, I did it.